single picture in time, or is this over 1 year?
This is over 1 year. So you see, the satellite is not completely wrong. The confirmed spills are in the well-known tanker routes. You also see that certain coastal states are more active in checking than others. There is, for example, little checking in the eastern Mediterranean. Mm-hmm. But the satellite has a lot of green dots.
Green dots on it.
Yeah.
No, it's very, very interesting. I thank you very much for bringing us this image, because I don't know how many of us are all aware of this continuous surveillance. Thank you for the image. We can
Maria,
go on.
may I add one phrase? I mean, detection is one thing.
Well, you got to do something about it.
But the follow-up,
exactly,
to identify the polluting ship and then bring those responsible to court or attribute penalties, that follow-up by the legal authorities is, of course, a special additional issue. And here I would like to pay tribute to France, because France is probably the most effective and the most active of all the EU coastal states in ensuring that
the follow-up is done.
Yeah.
William, thank you very, very much for that. I'd like to turn to the practitioners now. And the first is Mike Lacey, who's Secretary General of the International Salvage Union. And no doubt you really see a lot of maritime disasters. And I know that you have brought some photographs also, which will be projected behind us as you answer some questions. Very disturbing photos. Tell us perhaps just a little bit, Mike, about the type of maritime salvage operations that ISU members carry out.
Thank you, Maria. Good morning, everybody. Hopefully the pictures can be brought up onto the screen.
Yeah, can we have the pictures now? There we go. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
They should rotate. I hope they don't go too quickly. These just show some examples of the type of operations that members of the ISU carry out on ships that have got into trouble. When you say what type of work can we do, in effect, any type of work, any type of casualty, a member of the ISU can deal with. There has not been a single casualty that an ISU member has not been able to cope with. Obviously, when you get a situation like the Erika there, it's beyond help. Same with the Prestige. Some ships are too far gone to be salved. That doesn't mean to say the operation necessarily ends, because there can be work done, which you will hear about later, on recovering the cargo oil or the bunker oil from the ship, even after it has sunk. We seem to have lost the picture now, but there we go.
We passed them around, but if they want to, they can show them again.
So it's almost anything. It could be a grounding, it could be a collision, a fire, structural failure. The list is almost endless. There's the ability of ships to get into trouble. It never ceases to amaze me.
Yeah, but how effective are you really I'm sorry to ask, it's a rude question, but how effective are you in not only in solving, but also in preventing, if you wish, the pollution that comes from such disasters?
Okay, well, a salvor's obligation when he gets involved in a salvage operation is to use his best endeavors to save the ship and the cargo. And it's whilst he's doing that, he's also got a similar obligation to protect the environment and to minimize or avoid damage to the environment. In the work that salvors do, we've got details of well over 5,000 cases covering the last 25 years or so. And they are very successful. There's no doubt about it. There are, as I say, 1 or 2 ships which get beyond being salved. But in the main, once the salvor gets involved, he's successful. He brings the ship in, brings it into a safe place where it can be repaired, the cargo can be recovered, and so on. What tends to happen is that the most important thing for a salvor is to get good information as early as possible.
So what action in that case should be taken when an incident, a casualty occurs, and of course assistance is needed? What should happen, and what they should do with you?
Well, that is in the hands of the master of the ship and the ship owner, because obviously the first one to know there's a problem is the ship's master, or should be. And he will pass on information to his owners or managers. And at that stage, they need to start thinking seriously about whether this is a problem that can be solved within the capabilities of the ship itself and its crew, or whether they do need additional assistance. And if they do need assistance, then they need to get in touch with the salvor as soon as possible, because far too often efforts are made to recover the situation on the ship. They keep trying, they keep trying. Anybody who's been at sea will understand this. It does go on. And the chief engineer says, oh, I need another 2 hours, and it will be solved. And then it's another 3 hours and another 4 hours, and suddenly it's a bit too late. Whereas if warning had been given to a salvor, he can say what equipment he has in the area, whether he has any tugs nearby, and whether they should be mobilized. And if you look around the European coastline, France was the leading example in Europe to put tugs on station after the Imoko Cadiz incident. Now you have tugs on station around the UK, off Holland, Germany, in the Baltic and in the North Sea, and in various other locations. They're funded by governments, and they are there to respond as quickly as possible. But they can only respond if they know there's a problem. If they don't know about it, they're not going to do anything. They have to be told. Somebody has to pass the word on that there is a problem. And then the equipment, the people, the tugs, whatever is needed, can be, they can start mobilizing.
Tell me, your organization, the ISU, is also involved in something called Casualty Management Guidelines. What exactly are those guidelines?
Well, we started on this exercise a couple of years ago because if you look at what is going on around the world, for example, the International Maritime Organization have produced what are called place of refuge guidelines. These are for the benefit of those involved in shipping, and guidelines on what information is needed to enter a place of refuge. You know, when a ship is in trouble, it's understandable that a lot of coastal states become very wary about saying, yes, it's okay, bring it in here. The normal response is keep it away. The problem for a salvor is that if you have to keep the ship away from the coast, it becomes so much more difficult and sometimes so much more dangerous to deal with the problem. Now, it's understandable that coastal states don't want to have a leaking tanker or a polluting tanker or whatever brought into their waters. But there are times when that is the only way you are going to solve the problem and prevent it from getting worse. We look upon the place of refuge guidelines produced by IMO as being very constructive and very helpful, but we feel it's just one element of a whole mass of information that is needed when there is a casualty. And what we have tried to set out is a whole list of the parties who should be involved, the information that's required, how it should be passed on, what action should be taken, when it should be taken, by whom it should be taken. And what we hope is to, we've already put this to the EU, to their Department of Transport. They've expressed some interest and also some concerns. And there are concerns, even within our own organization, about having guidelines like this as to whether they become imposed upon a salvor and he may not be able to comply with them. Who knows? But we feel it's the way to go in the future.
Thank you very much. We'll come back later to a few questions about where things are not working. Very difficult always, and one doesn't like to point fingers, but it would be interesting to know that. I'm going to ask Gilles some questions, and then we'll get your questions. So start thinking about them. It's early in the morning. You had probably a lovely evening yesterday, but never mind. Start thinking about the kinds of questions that you would like to ask this eminently expert